This is Billy Rowe from Jet Boy and Buck Cherry, and you are watching CMS TV.
Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, the CMSnetwork.com, and the CMS Network Rumble page. We are live at those locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button. Click that subscribe button and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. And if you are looking for audio replays of the show, just Google Talking Into Infinity podcast, and we are on just about every podcast platform that you can think of. Normally at this time, I would introduce my co-host, Brian, but he ain't here. So he actually went back to St. Louis to visit family. So I am flying solo. And I had contemplated getting my amazing buddy Chris Aiken on the show for us to yell at each other for an hour. But I figured that we hadn't done a Dream Theater topic in a couple episodes. So I wanted to get some Dream Theater up in your guys' ear holes and eye holes and whatever all those stupid-ass statements are. And also, there has been a topic that has been on our topic sheet for quite a while that Brian is not as well versed in as I am, that being all of the live releases. He's seen some of them, not all of them. And the ones he has seen, he hasn't watched over and over like me. So I figured tonight would be a great opportunity for me to actually do that and get you guys involved, get your rankings, because I know you guys always like to jump in the chat and kind of be a part of that and give us your thoughts and where you have everything, how you have it all stacked up against each other. So real quick, before I get to the live rankings, I just got to show something off here real quick. This is going to suck for the audio listeners. But so I when is it? Like, it's about 2.5 weeks away or something. But I bought some really nice tickets to the upcoming Sammy Hagar tour, where he's doing mostly Van Hagar stuff. And obviously you guys know, if you've listened to the show at all, that I'm a huge Van Halen fan. So I ponied up for some good tickets, and I also got the VIP, the section that has VIP stuff. And I got some stuff for the green room behind the stage and nice parking and all this kind of crap. So my VIP stuff came today, and the main attraction, quote unquote, air quotes, of the VIP thing is a Sammy Hagar hockey jersey. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I mean, if any of you guys are baseball fans, you go to a baseball game and it's like free jersey night. It's like the flimsiest, shittiest thing you've ever seen. It's like, okay, big deal. So I open up this package, a few minutes before I jumped on the air here, and the hockey jersey, man, it is legit. Like, this thing is fully embroidered. It's thick. I mean, this is an expensive ass hockey jersey. So I was pretty pleased with it. So I just wanted to show it off real quick. I think it's pretty cool. So I've done VIP packages before, and haven't really gotten anything like this. So, so it's got the tour logo on the front and all the guys' names. And then the back, of course, it's got to have 55 for Sammy Hagar, but it's got his name. So this is pretty cool. And it's all embroidered, man. So I'm thrilled. I'm like, okay, that's well worth it. Okay, I don't mind. My wife says, this is ugly, because she's going with me, so she got one too. I said, then give it away. Like, who cares, man? It's supposed to be rock and roll. So leave it to my wife to be a downer. But anyway, so yeah, getting into the chat here. So Rocket Man, great to see you, man. Rocket Man 137 says, "Bring it on, lightweight John." John is not lightweight. John is a fat ass. So yeah. So everyone's betting on the fact that I'm going to mention my attendance at Score about 100 times tonight, but I'm not going to do that because I know it's expected. Although for Rocket Man, I might, just because I want to see how many people I can get drunk on a work night. Chastity Crawley, always good to see you. She says, before we get too into the topic, happy birthday, John Petrucci, tomorrow. All right. Maybe on his birthday, we'll get some news about the new record. So let's see, Tom Cullen, great to see you, man. He says, at rehearsal, can't chime in much, but scenes from New York and Budokan are tops. Also, hi, John. Hey, Tom. Thanks for tuning in, bro. Doug McCauley, always good to see you, man. I said, came for the DT, stayed for whatever John was just talking about. The Sammy Hagar tour, man. So, yeah. All right. There's Kale. It says, this could be a fun one. How goes it, John? It goes great. Not that this is a surprise, but me doing a solo show is not too difficult because I can talk the ear off a monk. So I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of cool to get to do this topic because for me, it's something I thought would be kind of interesting because there are 10 live releases, and I think it's a good topic. And I know that, the fans always really dig, the live stuff. And I mean, even though we're ranking them tonight, let's be honest, they haven't put out a bad one. So you've got tons of great stuff to choose from. And because I am not able to do it with Brian, him being off for a week gave me the opportunity to do it. So the show might not be as long as our usual stuff because, without Brian bantering back and forth and offering up his awesomely bad jokes. So yeah, I'll, might not talk as long, but I wanted to give you guys a show. So here it is. JG3, good to see you, man. He says, gather around, geeks. Time to talk about the greatest band of all time again. How you doing, John? I'm doing awesome. Thank you. He said, myself, I'm still recovering from the whirlwind of the episode of The Acolyte the other night. I had that I love the show so far, Jay, but that most recent episode, I was kind of like, all right, come on, give me something beside, give me something else. So, but the last episode is supposed to be really dark per Leslie Headland. So I think I got her name right, the show writer. So we'll see. All righty. So let's get into some live Dream Theater here. As I said, there are 10 releases, one of which obviously is an EP, and this encompasses the CD releases and also the DVDs, the Blu-rays, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I put everything in there so that we had enough to talk about. So look at this Rocket Man. He's trying to troll me. He says, what terrible take, John? Star Wars is dead and Disney killed it. We're not doing that, Rocket Man. We're not doing it. If you've seen my other show, you know how I feel about that Disney killed Star Wars thing. But so, all right, Kale with a good question. Are we counting Yitzhak Jam or Lost Not Forgotten releases? Because honestly, when Dream and Day reunite is important. Kale, I did not count those because there's a whole bunch in there, some of which obviously are cover records. And so, yeah, I just did the quote unquote official releases. I know Lost Not Forgotten is technically official because it's through the band. It's a Jam, same thing. But I stuck with the actual, the actual quote unquote official ones through the label and stuff like that. So Ali Studio says, what's up, John? Did you know that James LeBrie is recording the vocals for DT16 right now? How's it going, man? Rock on. Ali Studio, good to see you as always. Yeah, I'm waiting for some more news on that new record. I'm kind of surprised we haven't had a little bit more than I'm kind of surprised we haven't had a little more news than we have. But I've heard a couple of rumors, and I keep hearing like something like a October release date, but I don't know. I think that's a little soon considering we're halfway through July already. But not having the record out by the time they hit the road for that European tour, that's going to be kind of weird. Maybe they planned it that way. I don't know. So Doug McCauley, Gorilla Farts episode, the score game in effect tonight. Yes, the score game. Okay. The score game is in effect every episode. So that is always a thing. Gorilla Farts though, those are reserved solely for the annual fan hangout at the end of December, basically our big Christmas hangout. Shots are always in effect if I feel like it, especially if I'm not working the next day. But gorilla farts are a special once a year thing. So yeah. Alrighty, so let's dig into this here. So out of 10 live releases, I'm going from bottom to top, obviously, as we normally do. At number 10, and this is probably going to get Brian to kick my ass. I have Live at Luna Park. I thought it was a really cool set list that they did. I thought that something about it, like to me, James felt like he had kind of been like freed up a little bit. You know, his stage raps were a little more personal, I thought, in there. I thought they did some cool stuff. I really like the inclusion of A Fortune in Lies. You know, it sounds great. It looks great. But there is something really impersonal about that release. And I had that feeling when I first saw it. And Brian and I actually saw it in theaters because they had released it in theaters like right. God, was that 2011? Was it? And it was like there was a little theater right, I don't know, 2 minutes up the street from where we worked at the time together. And we went to see it. And I was like, okay, well, but Holly's Studio is already on the other end. Holly's Studio, my favorite live Dream Theater release is Live at Luna Park as well. Nice start to the list. No, Ali, this is my least favorite of the 10. I hate to break it to you. We're going worst to first. And I don't mean worst as in it's, you know, bad. I just mean it's my least favorite. So unfortunately, Ali, we are complete opposites. So, but yeah, like Discuss Metal Joe coming in a hair too late. Good to see you, brother, by the way. No, we are not counting Gitsy Jam or Lost Not Forgotten releases, just the official like label releases, quote unquote official stuff. Yeah, so I have always thought that there's something so impersonal about that Live at Luna Park show. And it really struck me the very first time I saw it in the theater with Brian. And I, you know, obviously I own everything, you know, in physical copy and digital and all that kind of stuff. So I've watched it a bunch of times and I still just get that vibe. It's just something just doesn't connect with me. I don't know if it's the weird shape of the venue. Like it almost seems like if you walk, like, I don't know, like if you walk into a rectangular room, the stage isn't at the end. It's almost like the stage is on the side and then the crowd's on the other side, like on the long sides. It just feels weird. So I've just never really been able to get into that show. And that sucks because, you know, they've got the acoustic stuff in the middle, which is great. I mean, Silent Man is just beautiful. I love that song. I mean, you know, our first time seeing Mangini live, and when he's doing the in Fortune and Lies, he's doing it with one hand. And I was like, oh my God, what is this guy? So it's good. I like it a lot. Like I say, they have not put out a bad live release to me. But if I had to watch, you know, any of these 10, this would be the last one that I would choose, watch or listen to. So yeah. JG3 says James sounded so great on that tour. He really did. Yes, he did. The only problem is some production errors. You cannot hear the very large crowd. The mic picks up some of James's breath. The lights blow out the camera. Yeah, I don't know. And I have to be honest, I wasn't really a big fan of the stage getup. It was just like those big boxes or whatever they were, like 3D cubes or something they looked like. I was like, all right. It was just a little boring, I guess, you know. So Jay also says night 1 was apparently mostly a wash and they had to use footage from night 2 because of the light issue. It's some of the reasons Luna Park took forever to come out. It can be seen on the bonus songs. Yeah. Kale McLeish says, whoa, hey, Luna Park was what made me really appreciate Mangini to begin with. Number 10 for me is Marquee, because I always felt that could have been much better, and I don't care for Bombay Vindaloo. Well, Kale, Doug McCauley, the light guy was blowing the camera guy? That's fantastic. Oh, my gosh. Well, Kale, you know, speaking of Live at the Marquee, let's move on to my number 9 release of the top Dream Theater live releases. And here I have Live at the Marquee. The only reason that I have this down this low is that it is an EP. And Kale, I'm going to agree with you partially on Bombay Vindaloo. I don't dislike it. I think it's fine. But I think if you're going to put out an EP, I think there was a lot better choices to put there. I just I understand they're like trying to show, all the different sides of the band, and they're putting, a jam on there to be like, oh hey, check this out. Like, but for me, it's kind of like, I don't know. I would have preferred if they put To Live Forever in that spot. I think that would have been a really good choice to put on there rather than Bombay Vindaloo. I think it sounds great and everything. It was always interesting to me that it's actually Dream Theater live minus James Labrie, because James had to go back and re-record the vocals to it. So that's always been kind of an interesting factoid to me, because we know that at that time James was absolutely ripping, on those first few tours. So I like the song selection though. I mean, it's cool. It's a great kind of, introduction to how the band was live. I mean, obviously you've got Metropolis, you've got Fortune and Lies, Another Day, Another Hand, Killing Hand, Pull Me Under. Like, I think those songs are great. I just, because it's an EP, and because I think there would have been something better to put there besides Bombay Vindaloo. I have that, second to last. Again, it is excellent though. I mean, I really, really enjoy it. And at some point I got to remember to get a vinyl version of that, because I want to put that up on the wall with my other stuff. So JG3 says, I enjoy Live at the Marquee as like a studio album / live record. It does kind of bother me a bit knowing that the vocals are all re-recorded. I prefer listening to the New York City Yitze Jam show they released. I could see that. I think I like the quality better, obviously, on Live at the Marquee for obvious reasons, but Ali Studio says, I hope Dream Theater puts out a live release for the 40th anniversary tour. That would be awesome. I have heard a rumor about this. So this is the only shitty part about doing a solo. Anytime I need to take a drink, there's like a drop in the audio. But anyway, I think we've mentioned this on the show, but we've heard a couple times that supposedly the plan is do a studio album, then do a live album, tour the live out, studio record, do a tour, record it, put out a live record, do a farewell tour off of that, and then they're done. So supposedly, if the rumors are to be believed, Ali, there will be a live record. So we'll see. JG3 says, it's kind of hilarious how much of an open secret it is that they re-recorded the vocals, even though James was absolutely killing it every night. I mean, dude, it's weird, man. That stuff happens. I mean, what's the live Priest record where Halford had to go back and do the whole thing? It was Unleashed in the East, I think. I think it was that one. It was the late 70s or early 80s or something. But I mean, he had to do that, and he was on it. Sometimes when you spend all that money to record it and whatnot, the guy's just, the singer's got an off night, you're kind of screwed. So, Cale McLeish says, interestingly enough, there is a changing track list on Marquee. Some got Another Day and some got Surrounded. Surrounded was much better. I did not know that. I'll have to look that up, Cale. I did not know that there was is it like a difference between like the CD version and the vinyl? I did not know that was the thing. DFT's Dungeon, what's up, man? Damn, Dan, I haven't seen you forever, dude. DFT's Dungeon says, I honestly couldn't tell that the vocals were re-recorded. Then again, I'm pretty easy to fool. I don't know about that. Yeah. And Doug McCauley, yeah, I mean, this is all the reason you need. He says, they'll do a live release of this tour, 40th anniversary tour. Frickin' Portnoy is back. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Cale at number 9 has Chaos in Motion. The concept was great, but ultimately the execution was not. Set list is great too, even down to Schmedley Wilcox, but the quality suffers from place to place. You will get my thoughts on Chaos in Motion later in the countdown, obviously, Cale. But unlike your last choice, I am not going to side with you on this one. All right, Jay, you gotta clarify this. JG3 says, we don't talk about Chaos in Motion. Why do we not talk about Chaos in Motion? It's got the 2001 intro. I mean, it's got some great stuff on there, man. Wow. All right. So there it is, Cale. Thank you. He says it was different between regions. I think European releases were Surrounded and the US was Another Day. That being for Live at the Marquee. Okay. Well, things I didn't know. I'll have to look up the version of Surrounded. That's cool. All right. So moving on at number 8. So again, I might catch a little crap for this. I don't know. See, this list was kind of difficult for me because, again, I like all of the releases. They're very close in quality for me. So it was really difficult to kind of differentiate and separate and kind of figure out what little pieces of each of them kind of put them up above others for me. So this one is, pretty much this is where it starts for me. The top 8 were, there's a couple obvious ones that would be higher up, but this is difficult. But I went with at number 8 on my list. I have Breaking the Fourth Wall. It's got great production, I think. I love the sound of it. Still not a big fan of Mangini's snare drum. As we know, the snare drum on that record, I did not like at all. On the self-titled record, and it kind of, that's how it sounded on the live record to me. It's got a really great set list. Obviously, it's got some of the, the Awake stuff and, Scenes from a Memory and whatnot. But it does have several songs from my least favorite album. So that kind of docked points. Although it then gained points for Enigma Machine, because Enigma Machine is fucking kick ass. So that's obviously a killer selection there. And I will say that one of the big dings on this one for me, sorry to all of those of you who love this song, but it's got Illumination Theory live on it, and I am not a fan of that song. It is my least favorite Epic, as we know. And it's no surprise that they did that, because, I think, unless you've been living under a Dream Theater rock, that if you see a Dream Theater record with a song that's like at or over 20 minutes, it's going in the set list on that tour. So it's not like we didn't know it was coming. But yeah, JG3. Musical treason. Oh my God, that's great. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's just there's other stuff that I like on the other releases better. Kind of a funny story. I don't know if I told this before, but I've interviewed Petrucci before with Chris Aiken, and it was for this release, actually, for Breaking the Fourth Wall. And Chris asked some questions, and I asked a couple questions. And this was also the interview where Chris, at the end, flat out asked John Petrucci. He said, "All right, I need you to settle a debate between me and John. I say that you guys are undisciplined songwriters, and he says that it takes extreme discipline to hold someone's ear for like 15 minutes. And John laughed about it, and he said, "Wow, that's tough." And he actually answered it. He took a while and went into detail, and he basically came out with the conclusion. He's like, "You guys are probably both right." So he was awesome about it. So that was just a great memory that I have. But it was funny because with Chris's interviews back then, he would, it was strictly audio, so it was all like radio and stuff, and he would let the artist he was interviewing choose what song they would play after the interview. And of course, John picked Illumination Theory. I was like, oh man. And I was laughing. And we got done with the interview, and Aiken's like, "Why are you laughing so much?" And I was like, "Dude, I know you're not a fan of the band, but he just picked like a 23-minute song." So you're going to have to play this damn thing because he requested it. So, and he did. But yeah, so that was kind of funny. So JG3 says, "Breaking the Fourth Wall is my favorite Dream Theater live Blu-ray. The band is in top form, and James is once again killing it." Yeah, I will say, I thought on that tour, Jay, that he was on fire. That was I think that was probably like the last great tour that I think James had, where you really, he wasn't missing a beat. I mean, he was just still getting way up there and everything. And man, he says, "The Shattered Fortress, Trial of Tears, Breaking All Illusions, The Mirror, Finally Free. Amazing performances of some of my favorite songs." Yeah, that was a Trial of Tears, especially that being my favorite Dream Theater song. I remember going to see that show in Chicago and going, man, if I could just hear one song tonight, it would be Trial of Tears. And they went into it, and I was thrilled. So loved it. Kale McLeish says, number 8, I will agree with, though it's more because we brought Looking Glass and Along for the Ride into it, less than Illumination Theory. And the orchestra mix wasn't all there. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, Kale. Like, on score, like, the orchestra was so freaking cool, especially because it was such a surprise. And it was like, oh my God, they're doing this? So I think when they did it for Breaking the Fourth Wall, it was still awesome, but it was almost kind of one of those, okay, we've seen it. So it took some of the luster off it, unfortunately. I thought it sounded cool, and it's a great watch, I think, and I think it adds a lot to the songs. But again, it did kind of, it was almost, I can't say anticlimactic, but it was like we'd seen it before. So that kind of took away from the special, the unique aspect of it. But I totally understand why they did it. So JG3 says he really enjoys what they did with Space Dive Vest. The ending vocals were great, and the guitar solo John added was a cool addition. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. Obviously, I'm a big fan of that song. So as soon as they went into that, I was like, holy shit. And I thought at the time, I thought that was almost like a kind of like a mini tiny little FU to Portnoy, because he had said they'll never play it live because it was, a Kevin Moore song. And, if they said in Lifting Shadows, the awesome Rich Wilson biography, they had said if they had known when they were, putting it on the record that he was leaving, that they wouldn't have put it on the record. So, so that was pretty cool. So, yeah, DFT's Dungeon. You guys are both right. The diplomatic answer. Yeah. But dude, give him credit. Aiken totally slapped him. He was like, yeah, I say you guys are undisciplined. It's like, how many artists can you get away with saying that to? And they're like, yeah, I'll answer the question without being a total douche. So, man, oh man. All right, so Ali Studio says, John, will you do a live stream for DT16? And James LaBrie said in an interview the album won't be out until early 2025, just so you know. I did not see that. So if that's what he said, then good. Then that proves the rumors that I've been hearing wrong, because I thought they were wrong anyway. And actually, Ali, about a live stream about DT16, that is one of the episodes that we have on tap. We're going to be doing kind of like we're going to do an album review. But somehow I'm also going to set up like a listening party and do it as like a special thing where all of us can get in there. And then I'm going to find a way that we can all listen to it at the same time somehow. And then we can all just bullshit about it and get reactions and stuff like that. So that's definitely going to happen. So, yeah. All right. So, moving on to number 7. This, I'm wondering where people would have this, because I think that I might have this a little low for some people. I think this one's it's a little more difficult to find too. I've actually known some Dream Theater fans that didn't know this existed, which is really weird, because I always thought that, if you're into Dream Theater, you know everything about it. I've never met like a quote unquote casual Dream Theater fan, but I have Live in Tokyo. So the version that I have, I've got the split release. It's a 2 DVD set. It's Live in Tokyo and Once in a Lifetime. So it's two DVDs. This is an awesome release personally for me. I just love seeing the band, pretty much at their earliest with James. They're hungry. It's, a little more stripped down than it would become. So it's a little more raw, which is always really cool to see. The version of Wait for Sleep is kick ass. That is just a fantastic version of that song. It's definitely by far my favorite of any of the ones I've heard. But the funny thing to me is that it's always like, you think about, James and what would happen to him with the, rupturing a vocal cord, during the Awake tour and all the stuff and having to recover. But it's like, in my notes, I have, damn, James, save some for down the road. What? Like he hits these crazy screams in parts of the song where it's not there. And it's like, damn, dude, somebody knew they were recording live. So, it sounds awesome. It sounds awesome, but it's just so funny to me. Like, as the singer myself, I know that if I know, like, if we have to record, like, I'm taking it a little easy to make sure I'm hitting my notes, but also, as you know, if I know that I don't have to sing the next day, if I get near the end of a show and I can just blow it out, like I totally do, just take advantage of it. Like, yeah, I'm going to rip my vocal cords in half. So, there's probably some of both going on there with James, I would assume. But yeah, I mean, it's just a really cool set list. Obviously you've got, stuff from the first two records. An extended guitar solo kind of jam thing. You've got, Portnoy with the solo in the middle of You'd Say Jam. It's when he had his little sound effect pad and stuff like that. He was doing that whole thing. You get an early version of, the intro to The Mirror, some cool footage of them, bopping around Tokyo and stuff like that. So you get to kind of see their personalities, which I think that's my favorite part of that release, because I mean, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I always think it's kind of ballsy for a band to release a live recording from like one of their first tours ever. You don't usually see that, it's usually a couple albums in, but they obviously did have two records out, but you get my point. So I thought that was ballsy, but then also there, it was kind of a personal thing. Like you don't get that a lot with a lot of live releases. It's pretty much, here's the concert, boom, we're out. But they kind of set a precedent for themselves with this by saying, hey, here's who we are as people. We're tourists. We're doing this, that, and the other. So that was pretty cool, man. So I thought that was unique, and I really, really like it. So yeah. All right. So Doug McCauley says, love Live in Tokyo. James at his best for sure. Yeah, his voice is just absolute money in the bank on this, man. GG3. Ah, yes, the peak dress attire version of Dream Theater. The frilly shirts and everything. Yep. Kale McLeish says, I didn't know we were counting this one. I was only going with the CDs. Yeah, I might agree with this placement because I don't remember much of it. I know To Live Forever was great on this one. Yeah, that's where they had like the kind of the extended guitar thing at the end. But I mean, truthfully, anytime I get To Live Forever, I'm a fan, because I something about that song I just love. It's like perfect melodically for me. That's I think if I would have to say that's probably my top choice for the 40th anniversary tour. If I could hear one song and say, okay, I'd be happy with paying for the tickets, it would be To Live Forever. I've heard Trail of Tears a couple times. I've only heard To Live Forever live once. It was on the Images and Words 25th anniversary tour. Doug McCauley, aka Clean Shaven Dream Theater. Yeah, right. Oh my God. Okay, JG3 says, this might be controversial, but I enjoy Kevin Moore, the studio keyboardist, but I find him a bit underwhelming as a live keyboardist. Jordan is just so much better as a live performer. You know what? I think I would agree with that. I think I would agree with that, Jay, because I mean, first of all, Jordan has a lot more varied sounds, and I get, like, it was very early in their career, and it's not like they had all the money to throw at equipment and stuff like that like they do now. So his rig was much more stripped down. But yeah, I think I would agree. Kevin Moore was never an outgoing, gregarious kind of figure on stage, and it's not that Jordan's out there like doing backflips and everything, but he's got his custom keyboard stand, and it's kind of rocks back and forth, and he rotates, and he's got the Zen Riffer and stuff like that. So I would agree with that. I think that's a good take, Jay. I think that's a good take. Kale says, lucky. I saw the Gift of Music, Our New World version of that Images and Words 25th anniversary set list. Yeah, Kale, what was really cool for me, though, was we saw To Live Forever live, and then when they did like the COVID broadcast, then it was Gift of Music, Our New World. So Brian and I actually got to see both versions, which was really, really cool, man. Doug McCauley. Keyboard backflips, John, like no one. Oh my God. Yeah, JG3 says, I wonder if he was uncomfortable performing, him being Kevin Moore. I mean, he never even performed his solo stuff. It just might not be his thing. Yeah, he flat said he's not into the celebrity of the whole thing. Like, he won't come back for even a one-off. it's weird. I mean, if you don't want to tour and you don't want to do all that stuff, I get it. But by the same token, like, why wouldn't you come back for just a show? Like, they were trying to get him for Score, and I think, they were trying to get him for When Dream and Day Reunite and stuff like that. Like, I mean, one show, is it really that difficult? But he may, at least, he's got his convictions and he sticks to them. So, yeah. So, all right. So speaking of convictions, I have conviction that number 6 on my list is a live release that looks and sounds amazing, and it is the most animated I think we've seen James on stage in any of them. I have Distant Memories live in London at number 6. It's a very cool set list. It looks great and everything. I thought, Wayne, our buddy Wayne Joyner, did a fucking kick-ass job on that stage setup. I will never forget walking into that tour in Chicago, Brian and I, and our first look at the stage, we went, what the hell is all this? I mean, it was so impressive, especially coming off the back of, the Images tour that we saw, which was basically like the backdrop was a giant quilt, and that was pretty much it. They went very much bare bones, not a lot of, if any, production. And then all of a sudden you get to, Distance Over Time, and you've got like, these ramps and stuff and big, huge graphics and lights, and you're like, what in the hell? So I mean, for that reason, this DVD just looks fantastic, and the sound is great. Obviously, we know it was a great set list. I mean, you've got Nightmare to Remember in there, obviously, Pale Blue Dot, and I just think it was an awesome presentation. I think I would have liked a little bit more behind the scenes stuff. I think, and that's one thing. I mean, this is a very obvious thing to say, but it's because of how much stuff that Portnoy used to always put on these things, it became kind of glaring that it wasn't there. In 13 years that he wasn't in the band, which is crazy because they still did those things. And if it was any other band, you'd be like, oh, look at all this cool bonus stuff. But because it's Portnoy, it was like, here's like 86 hours of bonus stuff for an hour and a half long album. Like, you're like, oh, I wish there was more. So if I had a complaint, that might be it. But it's like, what do you want? You got bonus stuff. You got phenomenal production value. And again, I loved how James was just all over the place. I thought that was cool. He seemed reinvigorated. Even when we saw that tour, he seemed reinvigorated. I think, his best vocal performance for me on a record will always be The Astonishing, just because of all the different parts that he had to portray, the different ways he had to use his voice. But I think, because that record was so, divisive with the fans, and, I don't think that the Mangini era had gotten quite the traction that they were hoping for. I think when Distance Over Time came out, and it was kind of, for me, I think it was an immediate hit. The reactions that I saw were almost universally positive right off the bat for it. I think it really kind of, reinvigorated them. I thought they were like, okay, cool. We still, I hate to say they were thinking, oh, we still got it. But you know what I mean? It's like, okay, cool. Like, the fans haven't jumped off the bandwagon. Like, it's, this is still exactly what it's always been. So, and I think you can see that in James, especially on that tour. So I love this release for that record, for that reason, excuse me. And like I say, Wayne's graphics work was just out of this world. I don't know how he would have ever topped it. I mean, the view from the top of the world was awesome as well, but there was just something. I mean, it was like seeing like an arena band in more of like a, like a theater setting, like it holds like 2,000, 2,500 people, as opposed, it looked like a stage you would put in a place that holds like 25,000, which I thought was just awesome. So that's very, very cool. So, alrighty. JG3 says, I love the way Distant Memories is filmed. It sounds great, and the band sounds fantastic. James can be a little hit or miss at times, but he mostly nails it. I'm a big fan of that show. Kale McLeish says, Distant Memories is fantastic. Weirdly, I think I'd take the first set over the scene set. I just wish they'd done the Overture 2000 jam instead of the new ending of Finally Free. Fucking COVID. Right. Yeah. So in terms of Kale, I should have gotten to see this live for myself. Kale, you're just gonna have to save up and get a plane ticket, man. You're gonna have to come over to the US. You're just gonna have to road trip like halfway across the world to see Dream Theater. So Ali Studio says, I hope we get a documentary of DT16 so we can see what they were doing in the studio. That would be awesome. Ali, I would put a lot of money on the fact that that's going to happen. I don't think there's any way they don't do that. I mean, we've said before on the show that, I mean, I think all of us want to see that. And, you know, it's not even just going to be like, hey, here's how we did the new record. There's going to be a whole thing about how it came together, you know, how they got back together, you know, all that kind of brotherly love stuff. Like it's Portnoy. There's no way that that's not going to be something that they put out, you know? So JG3 says the Distant Memories tour Blu-ray, James felt really confident and strong vocally, especially during the scene set. Yeah, yeah. See, okay. See, Kale, look at that. Kale, you have a Chastity. She's so sweet. And she'll bake for you. Chastity says, Kale, you have a place to stay in Utah if you need it. There we go. See? And look, Kale, you're such a complainer. I have to do all the travel myself because bands just suck ass at remembering us now. Well, you live really far away, dude. So, oh my God, that's funny. All right, so appreciate all your guys' input, man. Helping me get through this solo show. You guys are awesome as usual. Moving on to the top 5. This might be a little bit of a surprise to people, but I have Once in a Lifetime at number 5, and it is, you know, the live release from my favorite record. So obviously I love the set list. But for me, I think what knocks this down a peg is in the DVD. The CD version where it's just the show is amazing. I love it. I love the production on it. It's fat, you know, it's you know, I think you know they're firing on all cylinders, even though I don't know how you guys feel about this, but we know now that, you know, they were basically a couple shows away from being done. You know, Portnoy had said, I'm stepping down, whatever. And that's why at the end of the show, he says, au revoir, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Cause it was, you know, yeah, I'm out. I'm just going to finish the tour. And, you know, I think my dogs are fighting upstairs. Sorry guys, got a new dog and 2 of them are kind of getting into it. But yeah, even though we now know that they were basically about to be broken up for all intents and purposes, I don't think it sounds like that on that release. I think they sound great. So I love it for that reason. But I think on the DVD, some of the live stuff to me, and I hate to say this, was a touch boring for me. And by that I mean some of the acoustic selections that they chose. I would have picked some different stuff. I really like them, but I think it slows down a little bit for me. And so that's the only reason why I bumped this one down a little bit. But I love that, you know, that the DVD was different than the CD. Now that's awesome. Because it's, you know, when you give me like a whole entire package where, you know, it's like half is over here, half is over there. I really, really like that. I thought that was awesome. So that is definitely something that's very, very cool. But again, I think just because of a couple of those acoustic songs not being my favorite choices, I think that's why I have this one down at number 5. So yeah. Kale McLeish says that is surprising, but quality-wise, I think I might actually swap Distant Memories and Lifetime for 5th and 6th. Okay, I'll give you that. I could see that. Doug McCauley about the live thing. I live on the same continent and still can't get near a live show for like 30 plus years. It was never a possibility. What, Doug, are you in Canada or something? What the hell? They're always in the US. Yeah, Kale, I hear an unhappy puppy. Yeah, the new dog is he's doing the typical, like, you know, get away from my food or get away from my toy, which a normal dog would do. And the dog we got, my stepdaughter's dog, we got this new dog to be buddies. That's a whole nother story we won't get into. But she basically, because our other two dogs are so mellow, she's used to putting her nose wherever the hell she wants and nobody reacts. So she's doing that to the new dog and they are getting snippy. So that's why you heard that. So they are setting up their hierarchy. JG3 says, I enjoy it more than I used to. I had dismissed this for quite a while, but I appreciate it more these days. The Old Bridge 96 show from that era is my preferable show to listen to. Yeah. Yeah, I think the only thing there, Jay, is that it's not like, because it's not quote unquote officially recorded. I like, obviously like the production better on once in a lifetime, but Jay also says, I'm not a huge fan of live shows with the songs cut up by backstage band things. I much prefer having the show beginning to end and then the backstage stuff separate. See, you know what, man? I am going to disagree on that personally. I actually like when they cut it up a little bit because I think it makes it easier to get through in one sitting for me. I like seeing some songs and then you get something. It's kind of like, if you were at the movie theater and they gave you like an intermission every 25 minutes to go get popcorn or take a piss or something, it's like, oh, okay, you can get some more snacks. You can kind of relax and then come back to it. Like I kind of like watching things in that fashion when I'm at home. So I like that they cut it up like that. And I like releases where they do that. Van Halen live right here, right now, they would have a little interview with the guy before they went into the solo section, which I thought was kind of cool. I mean, it was very brief, but it did break it up a little. So I enjoyed it. So, Chastity, if I lived closer, I'd help. I've trained dogs for 21 years. I will be contacting you offline to get some tips. So, and Doug, so he's in the same boat as Kale. Yes, Canada, not near a city they will come. It's an ordeal to get to a show. I'm hoping for Montreal on 16. VIP package if possible. Dude, I would be shocked if they don't play the bigger cities in Canada, like many of them. The demand is just too strong, at least for this first tour back. People want to see it. So the only thing I can see like really kind of puncturing that balloon is if people, with the videos everyone's going to post online and whatnot, if they don't like the set list or some of the performances or something. I mean, maybe it's not as energetic as everyone hoped. I don't know, but I expect them to play a ton of places because everyone's going to go to that. So, Jay, this is a perfect example. He said, that's fair. I know people dig it. People loved The Song Remains the Same. Not this guy. Yeah, I know that's sacrilege. I love Zeppelin. A lot of their stuff I really, really enjoy. Song Remains the Same is not one of them. The jams are way too overblown. And the little fantasy sequences are just kind of dumb to me. I'm on an island on that, but I do not like that. So, yeah. All right. So moving on to my top 4. At number 4, and again, this may be a little controversial because I think this is one that a lot of people would probably have in their top spot. I actually have the marathon juggernaut that is Live Scenes from New York. It is absolutely, like I say, it is a juggernaut. So for those of you guys who may not be familiar with it, this is, 4 hours long or something like that? Because they did the whole scenes record and then they basically did a whole nother 2 hours or something like that. And James at the end, he goes with the mic, he's like, sorry about the short set. Yeah, that's like, man, I think that's the only reason why I have this, at number 4 and I don't have it higher. It's awesome to get all that content, but to do it in one sitting is kind of a bitch. And I think, your ears get a little bit tired. I wonder what it would have been like to be there. Cause I'm trying to remember which one of you guys has said that you were there. I know there's people that have tuned in that were there. And they said it was amazing, but I wonder what it would be like to be at a show that goes 4 hours. It's, because I know that was the first tour that I ever saw the band, and I still wasn't used to them. And Doug McCauley, wasn't me. Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, like I know, like, and again, I wasn't as into them as I am now, so I was still getting my Dream Theater legs under me. But when they, they did the scenes record, and then they went in and they did a second set, a bunch of stuff. Man, near the end of the show, I was like, dude, I just need to hear some AC/DC. I need some 4-chord jammer, 4/4 time signature. Just holy shit. It's kind of like, my favorite food is crab legs. And when I go to all you can eat crab, like that taste at the end, I've eaten so much. I'm like, oh my God, just give me like a couple spoonfuls of ice cream. Just give me something simple and sweet. And like, so yeah, man, 4 hours. Holy shit, man. That's just, but that having been said, I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, talk about getting your money's worth. You get the whole scenes record. You get, the little choir going with Teresa Thompson leading it. Changes seasons. You get, that mashup that they put in there. I mean, man, there is so much great stuff on there. And, and it's cool because I think there's an energy to it because, Jordan was still fresh in the band. Obviously it was his first record with them. And, most of the guys being New York guys, it's a homecoming show. They were completely rejuvenated, by having told the label to fuck off after Falling Into Infinity. They're like, look, we're doing a record our way. It's either going to be successful our way or it's going to fail our way. And then you can drop us later, but you'll piss off. And they bet on themselves and won big time and wrote what most people consider to be, or not most, but a lot of people consider to be their best record. So I think there's a lot of energy on that release. And it's basically, it's a victory lap. It's a huge victory lap to me. And, I think, and one of the things I also like about it, there's an immediacy to the production. Some of the other ones, like Distant Memories and Live at Budokan and stuff like that, they look like a movie. It's like something you would see at a cinema. It's like so professional looking. This almost looks like it was kind of, I don't want to say low budget, but it's got that kind of home movie camera-esque kind of look to it. It's not as polished. And I think for that reason, it looks more intimate. And I've always really enjoyed that about this one. So, yeah, I mean, live scenes is just kick ass. Like I say, it's just down this low strictly because of the fact that it's a little bit long. So getting through it in one sitting is kind of a bitch. So, all right, let's get to, there we go. Yeah. Kale, take the intermission between Finally Free and Metropolis as intended. Okay. So we're not talking about the right record there. JG3, sorry about that. JG3 says, I enjoy live scenes a lot. A mind beside itself, learning to live a change of seasons back to back is amazing. My complaint is the sound is a bit muddy, the bass in particular. Yeah, but you know what, Doje? I think that was kind of like, that's kind of been John Mayung's tone for, at least at that period, for quite a bit. He got really locked in on that. So that was, I think that was just kind of like par for the course there. Yeah. Doug says, if you listen to the commentary, James at the end of that marathon says, if you're still watching, you need to get a fucking life. It's one thing I've never done because of the runtime. I've never watched the commentary. So I think I'm definitely going to have to do that because that would kind of get me through it because it's a fresh way to watch it and whatnot. Kale McLeish says live scenes goes into my number 2 slot. That's really gross, Kale. Slightly muddy sounds, and I'm just not a fan of Another Day. You know what, Kale? I will give James a pass on Another Day. I mean, to put that song that late in that long of a show is, oh, God. I mean, I'm surprised he hit any of those notes. So, yeah, holy shit. Ugh. Yeah, I cannot blame him for that. So, all righty. Well, no. Okay, Kale says, how are we not talking about the right record? The actual show ended set 1 at the end of scenes, and the second set kicked in with Metropolis. Well, you said fine. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry, Kale. For some reason, I was thinking 6 Degrees. Never mind. You are talking. Sorry. See, this is why you guys are awesome, because you guys have no compunction about correcting me when I need corrected. I love that. I fucking love that. So thank you for correcting me, Kale, as always. So JG3 says, I actually don't mind his performance of Another Day. He's not hitting the highest notes, but it still sounds powerful. Yeah, I would agree. Like I say, I mean, if you're going to have James sing it that late and that long of a show, you get what you get. I mean, the guy's only human, for fuck's sake. All right. So moving into the top 3, I, at number 3, have what I think is the best produced and best looking live release that they've done. I have Live at Budokan at number 3. I have this one above Scenes from New York because it's a little shorter, so it's easier to get through in one sitting. It's, and as I just said, it's got, you know, the best production value of the live releases, I think. And you know, some of the song choices are just great. You know, when you get like the instrumentally going on, I think is cool. You get that jam, you know, in the middle of was it Home? I think track 3. I'm drawing a blank, but whatever track 3 was, and you get that big jam in the middle, which was the little solo spotlight. It was awesome. Obviously, it's the live version of Hollow Years appears on this. So I think the set list was amazingly well crafted. Every song just works. I laugh because my favorite John Petrucci guitar solo is in Test That Stumped Them All, and he actually blows the coolest part for me, like the wham. You can hear he go. He kind of he misses a little bit at the very beginning there, so that always kind of makes me laugh. But I mean, there is nothing to complain about with this one. It's so unbelievably well done, and I don't know. I mean, what can you say? I mean, In the Name of God is just great. You get the Train of Thought stuff live, which is awesome. It's just a phenomenal package. You get a really cool documentary in there. There's a lot of rig rundowns, which is awesome. So, I mean, the bonus features are fantastic. And like I said, it just sounds awesome. It looks awesome. And this is just a perfect release. I remember when this first came out, I could not stop listening to it. I was like, holy shit, this is like another studio album for me. And I just devoured this one. And I bought it on DVD as soon as it came out. And even though I owned it, the second they announced they were going to re-release it on Blu-ray, I forget if it was my birthday or Christmas coming up, but my stepdaughter had asked me, like, oh, what do you want for, and I was like, oh, you got to get me Live at Budokan. So she was like, wow, I thought it would have taken you a minute to think of something. I'm like, nope, get me the Dream Theater Blu-ray, dude. I need to have the Dream Theater Blu-ray. So that was pretty cool. So that's a fun memory that I have of this record. But yeah, I've played this one to death, and I just think they're firing on all cylinders on this one. So yeah, my number 3 is excuse me, Live at Budokan. Chastity Crawley at her number 3 has Live at the Marquee. Interesting. Okay. That seems kind of high, Chastity. I got to be honest. You have to explain in the chat why you have that so high. Again, I mean, there's not a wrong answer, but for, with all the great stuff they've put out, to have an EP up there, that's pretty strong. So, all right. Doug McCauley says, instrumentally. Enough said. Amen to that. Kale says, Beyond This Life was the jam. Yeah. Kale, I mean, everywhere you look on this one, you can say, oh, this one was awesome. This one was awesome. And all of a sudden you realize basically the whole show was just unbelievable. So it's just, the band was completely firing on all cylinders. It was such a great, great, great show. JG3 says, yeah, the filming of Budokan is great. It's just a fantastic venue for filming a live concert. Yeah, I agree. I think, Jay, I think it's kind of like the opposite of, it's the opposite of Live at Luna Park for me. Like, I feel a part of, Live at Budokan, whereas with Live at Luna Park, I feel distanced from it. It's kind of, like at arm's length. It's weird. So Sean Faust, what is up, man? How's it going, dude? He says, hey, everybody. Good to see you, man. It's been a while. He asked me, did you talk about being at SCORE yet? I mentioned it one time at the beginning of the show, and only in reference to the fact that people were drinking when I said it. So I was referencing the game, and I actually didn't say, hey, I was there. So, Doug McCauley says, did they do Fortune and Lies on Budokan, or was it another song from When Dream and Day Unite? No, it was it Only a Matter of Time, I think? Let me look up the track listing. Well, actually, I don't even need to do that because Kale will have it in the chat in a second. So, yeah, Only a Matter of Time. Okay, yeah. So Ali's Studio has number 1 live at Budokan for him. Best live DVD ever, and bonus stuff is awesome. Yes. Doug, that does not count as a drink. I was asked a question. It doesn't count. It does not count unless I'm like actually in a conversation. If I'm answering a question, that's not me saying I was at Score. Like I just referenced it to reference it. I wasn't saying, hey guys, guess what? So when I was at Score, like if I was phrasing it that way, then you could count it against me. But yeah. Jay, good point here. He says, I have since obtained the DVD and the Blu-ray. If anyone hasn't heard the Budokan Blu-ray, it sounds exceptionally crisp and looks fantastic. Yeah, it is ungodly. I mean, the production value is second to none. So Sean Faust says, the fact that the extended Beyond This live jam was improv every night speaks volumes too. Yes, it does. Yep. Kale, my number 3 is The Drinking Game. Couple of choices I would have made differently, but everything is so well performed. And my God, that orchestra. One of 3 Metropolises in my playlist. Nice. Oh my God, that's awesome. JG3. There's something I love about seeing a bunch of Japanese businessmen in suits rocking out to Train of Thought live. Yep. Oh my God. Look at Doug McCauley. You mentioned it. I drink. Look, Doug, if you just want an excuse to drink, I mean, there's plenty of those. You don't have to wait for me to talk about Score. So, God damn it, Kayla, I didn't do it twice. You guys are messing up the drinking game. I'm going to start calling when you drink, okay? I'm going to have to like police my own drinking game or excuse me, the game that was made up about me. Damn you. All righty. So let's get into my top 2 here. Okay. I think this is, we only have 2 left, so. But I think it might be a little controversial to have this high. I know some of you guys had this very low in the chat previously. At number 2, I actually have Chaos in Motion. And the reason that I have it this high is because it has a documentary about touring. And I am a huge documentary fan. I love watching documentaries. So if you give me a Dream Theater documentary, and especially one that's not just, hey, here's how we made the record, or hey, here's us, kind of wandering around backstage, like the fact that it's like, hey, here's what happens on tour. Here's catering, here's, Portnoy gets a massage all the time, because he's a drummer and it's very physical. Here's all this different stuff. Like that to me was awesome and well worth the price of admission. I would have paid for that 16 times over by itself, but the fact that we also get a 3-disc live album as well, the whole thing is just awesome. And I, as I said earlier, I absolutely love the 2001 intro, Zarathustra, or whatever, how do you say it, that whatever. I thought that was fucking great, man. When I saw that tour, when they first came out doing that, I was like, oh my God, that is so badass. It's like the most badass show intro I've ever seen. So I love that. I think it was Pink Floyd that they do the little solo jam after at the end of Surrounded. I thought that was really cool, which kind of broke my heart because originally I thought that was just an original Petrucci thing, but then someone corrected me later and said it was actually Pink Floyd. And I went, oh shit, I just complimented Pink Floyd because I hate Pink Floyd. But apparently I don't hate that piece of Pink Floyd music. So I stand corrected. But you get some really cool 6 Degrees tracks on there. In the Presence of Enemies, played in its entirety in one chunk. It's, man, I love it. And I know that like the production value gets dinged because I don't think it was meant to be super produced like something like Live at Budokan or Distant Memories or something like that. But to me, it didn't really take away from it because the sound was really good. And, it's not like it was it's not like the video was Cliff 'em All or something filmed on somebody's home camcorder. So, I thought it was cool. I love it. The amount of content there outside of the live stuff, I thought was absolutely incredible. So for me, I just think that it was a fantastic show, a fantastic set. I have great memories of that tour. That's the only time I ever saw them on back-to-back nights. Excuse me. They were playing in Columbus, Ohio on Friday night, and then here at home in Cleveland on Saturday. And club owner, friend of mine from Youngstown, where my band played all the time, he was a huge Dream Theater guy. He's like, hey, man, we got to go see Dream Theater. And I was like, okay, well, you want to go Saturday? They're in Cleveland. He's like, oh, I can't. I got this thing I got to do. I said, well, let's go on. He goes, I can go to Columbus on Friday. And I said, shit, I'll go 2 nights in a row. So we went, he and I drove down to Columbus to see him that Friday. And then, we spent the night and then came back Saturday morning. And then I went with some other friends on Saturday and caught the show there. And the cool thing about it was, if any, for anybody who wonders how different Portnoy's set lists were, and how we all know he rotated them and changed things out all the time and whatnot. Both shows were very long, and I only saw 3 common songs between the 2 nights, and one of them was Forsaken, because that was, obviously it's kind of like the quote unquote single from the Systematic Chaos record. But other than that, there were only 2 other songs that were common. So, I mean, it was almost a completely different show, which was like, oh my God. So that was awesome. All righty. So let's see what we got up here. JG3 said the producer did some musical blasphemy by transforming James's voice on Scarred into something not resembling a human voice. Some of the songs have this horrific auto-tune compression thing. Yeah, there is like there is a kind of weird sound. I will give you that, Jay. I will give you that. I kind of noticed that too. But to me, it's still good. So I think it's still great. So yeah, JG3 at Sean Faust. I mean, what on earth did they do? What on earth did they do to the voice? I saw them on that tour. I've heard the bootlegs. James doesn't sound like that. No, he doesn't. I have something. Actually, I have a really cool. I gotta find it. I don't know where I put it, but I actually have John Mayung's ear mix on CD from the Cleveland show I saw on that tour, and he definitely didn't. I mean, at least he wasn't singing anything weird. I know that. So, yeah, that was kind of strange. So, Kale says at least the set list is good. Hopefully not the last time we get Blind Faith. Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. So at number 1, this should not be a surprise. I tried to tease it in the show description, but I'm terrible at masking stuff. So I obviously have the show that I was at. Drink up, everybody. I got to have Score at number 1. That show might be my favorite concert of all time that I've been to. My first Van Halen show is definitely up there. I saw my second Van Halen show with my mom, which was just such a goddamn good time. So that's up there. But I think being at Score was just, I mean, all the different stuff that happened, being interviewed and then finding out that I was on the documentary, meeting Portnoy and getting his autograph. And, I mean, the trip down there was a blast. The trip back was fun. For any of you guys who are newer to the show, if you go back in the archives, I actually had my buddy Matt Wardlaw on the show to talk about Score. He's the one that I went to the show with. And we talked about our trip and also kind of deep dove the record and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I mean, being in such an iconic venue was just a total blast for me, because I've not gotten to do many things like that in my life. Like I've done a lot of cool shit, but in terms of like, people, I went to Red Rocks, or I went to the Pantheon, or all these legendary places to go visit and stuff. I've never really done anything like that. Like I think Radio City is probably the most iconic place I've been to. And I think it's just because, my emotional connection to that whole trip, it puts it up there, because I was just in a great mood the whole time. I mean, absolutely nothing popped in my balloon for the 4 days that we did that trip. And then on top of it, it's just an unbelievably kick-ass performance. And, we've talked about it before on the show. If you listen to James doing, drop that side, don't vary, at the end of Octavarium, James is just killing it at that show. The entire set list to me is perfection. And I think, the video on this reminds me a lot of Live Scenes from New York, in that it's very personal, but you combine it with great production and a great sound. And again, I think there's just a certain energy to it because of, it being a homecoming thing. And then, the band kind of being like, holy shit, we're playing Radio City Music Hall. And I can tell, Sean Faust, he mentioned earlier in the chat that, he was there. So he knows the energy in that place was off the charts. I mean, everybody was so excited to be there, and you knew that you were at a historic show and that it was just a big, big, big moment. And the show absolutely delivered. It was, I mean, when you go to something like that, you kind of build it up in your head, like, okay, this is going to be awesome. And a lot of times, like, okay, that was pretty good. That was what I expected. Or you might be a little bit let down. It's hard to live up to those expectations. And they definitely exceeded the expectations, especially when the curtain came up and we saw the orchestra. We were like, what the fuck? Like, and you can hear it on the recording. You can hear the crowd, like the holy shit moment when the curtain comes up and we finally realize what's happening. But to be in the room, that reaction was thunderous. It was, I mean, everybody around me went, whoa, holy shit. Like, so the whole experience of it was just so incredible. And again, the performances are great. You get, another one. So you get a song that only the diehard of the diehards know. If you have the When Dream and Day Unite demo release from Yitzhak Jam, and they picked the best songs to do. And the whole thing just absolutely rocked. And the show, I think, was like a perfect length, and obviously we know there was, New York union regulations that kind of played into that, but the show was basically like a perfect length. The emotion was there, and man, it's just great all the way around. It's just great all the way around. And there's Sean. He says, when the curtain came up for the second set with the orchestra, we all lost our minds. Yeah, that was. I mean, it was crazy because we had walked around the venue a few hours before, and we heard some banging and stuff going on inside. We knew they were sound checking and whatnot, but we didn't hear a peep of anything that would have given you a clue that there's an orchestra back there. So it was, man, it was so great. JG3 says, I really, really, really hope they eventually put this out on Blu-ray. It was filmed in HD, so it should be possible, like Budokan. Yeah, you know what, Jay? I am surprised that they haven't done that already, because I would think that this would be something that the fans would be totally into. That's kind of crazy. He also says the performance of Spirit Carries On is amazing. Yeah, for me, that's my number one performance of that song, honestly. And Raise the Knife was such a good performance that it took a B-side song and made it into something great live. Yeah, Jay, I think that's a great point. I think that kind of, for people who didn't know Raise the Knife, and I had forgotten about it, to be completely honest, when they played it. I was like, what the hell? And I think now that song is almost considered a part of that record, Falling Into Infinity, anymore, because people are, so enamored with it being on score. That's kind of how I see it. So Kale asks, when did you put together that the second set was going to lift as big as it was? Because ending set one with Spirit would have given it away to me. Song is not a closer. Actually, Kale, I had seen them a couple weeks before in Cleveland, and the song that they played off of 6 Degrees was actually Glass Prison. So I thought they were gonna open up with Glass Prison. because that's what they had done. So I'm thinking, okay, whatever. But then when the curtain starts coming up and you kind of hear, the orcs, we're like, what? And then especially, you think you think, okay, they're doing the overture or whatever, to open the second disc of 6 Degrees. Well, then when they went into the song, we're like, get the fuck out of here. Like, and then here comes, track 3 we were like, oh my God, they're doing the whole second disc. Like, it was unbelievable. We're like, is this really happening? Like, are we really watching this? So yeah, I mean, it's, man. Yeah, it was, God damn. Ali's studio. When will Brian be back? Ali, it doesn't matter. Brian doesn't matter. Only I matter. No, I'm just kidding. He's back on the next episode. He is out in St. Louis visiting family. He doesn't get a chance to get out there very often. So, he actually had a bunch of time off, this week. And so he took the time to head out there. So, yeah, JG3 said it's kind of funny how they rush off the stage and then back on to play the Metropolis encore quickly to beat the curfew. Yeah, I think they went a few minutes over and it cost them, like, I forget the dollar amount, but it's mentioned in Lifting Shadows. It's mentioned in there like how much they paid a pretty reasonable amount of money for just going over a few minutes. So, yeah, Kale says you'll notice that the live version of 6 Degrees on the CD is one song. Because it is. I'm telling you, man, I've told the story before, but I've played that at bars when they've had it on the touch tunes just to annoy people. So, all right, man. Whew. Well, this was fun, man. You guys are awesome. Again, thank you guys very much for helping me knock through a solo show here. Sorry if it's a little long-winded, but wanted to make sure I gave you guys content. And, man, these dogs are, what the hell are they doing? Don't they know I'm doing a podcast? Anyway, so yeah, Brian will be back on our next episode. So I will not be flying solo. And yeah, you guys are awesome, man. Thank you very much for tuning in. JG3 and Sean Faust and Chastity and Doug McCauley and Ali's studio. All you guys, man. Kale McLeish. Thank you guys very much. As always, it's, you guys help make the show go. And obviously, stuff like tonight, you really make the show go. So, yeah, our next episode is going to be 2 weeks from tonight. It will be on July 25th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, Brian will be back. I think we have a topic laid out, but I got to confirm with him, so I don't want to say in case we don't have it. And I'm also in the process of trying to track down a pretty major interview. It is not Dream Theater related, but it is absolutely fucking kick ass. And you guys will all know who it is and what band it's about and what records it pertains to. And you guys will absolutely love it. So a little bit of music nerd stuff on that one if I can actually get it scheduled. So I'm kind of playing some email tag there. But again, guys, thanks for checking out another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater centric podcast. Don't forget, if you are watching on YouTube and have not done so, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell so that you are notified whenever we go live. And if you're looking for audio replays, just Google Talking Into Infinity podcast. So, normally I would say, I'm your host, John. He's Brian, but he's not Brian. He's in St. Louis. So we'll see you guys in 2 weeks on Thursday, July 25th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And guys, as always, love you and Carpe Diem.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Chris Aiken from the Classic Metal Show, the Seth Williams Show, every other show in the world. Chris Aiken presents. Can't remember the one with my own name in it. But I know what I do remember. This book right here, and other things I should not say. That's right, this is the book you want to buy from me, especially you CMS people that like a lot of my dirtier stories. This is the one. This is the one that has all of the stories about my running around in the military, especially in Korea. It's filthy, folks. I'm not going to tell you that it's a biblical prophecy. It is anything but. It is a dirty book, but it has a lot of stories that I really shouldn't say. Hence the title. But it's a great book. It's a fun read. I encourage you to pick it up and go over to Amazon and get it. Amazon, just look up my name and other things you should not say. And if you don't want to get it there, you can get it over at chrisaiken.net. it's there as well. So pick it up today. And other things I should not say, it is the latest book by me, Chris Aiken. And read it and let me know what you think. All right. See ya.